I think that was a crucial moment in, I think, both of our lives. At the beginning, I guess you could say I didn't really have a good relationship with, the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, that an opportunity came with the organization that we were volunteering with. Yeah, there was a lot of like sacrifices. I never really looked at any of that. There was times where I remember I would look at my bank account and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I just got to do it. I just got to go for it. And I'd scrap up whatever money I had and figured it out and just kind of rolled with the punches at that time.
Daniel, I've never told you this before, but I think something that I wanted to share with you is that I'm super grateful for the Element 7 podcast. I'm finally excited to do this podcast, one, because if you know me, I've been somebody who loves to hear stories, loves to hear where people come out of. And so it's something that I want to bring to a podcast just like this one, because, you always find things that are relatable. I listen to a lot of podcasts, so I always think that, I always grab something out of it. I love hearing the stories of individuals and them kind of pouring their hearts out. Like if they're writing on a diary, right? And so this is that podcast that I hope that if you're listening, that this can be a podcast you listen to every week, a podcast that you just enjoy having when you're working or things like that, to be able to just hear how some people have gotten through certain things, how people have the knowledge and experience of maybe something that you're trying to pursue. So without further ado, I want to welcome one of my co-hosts, Daniel Rivera. Daniel is our engineer out here. So Daniel, say what's up.
How's it going, man? It's a pleasure to be here with you, Isaac. It's an honor to be able to be a part of this podcast. I'm excited. I'm ready to meet these people. I'm ready to hear these stories. And I hope that everyone that's listening is able to get something out of this. It's a podcast that we're doing from the bottom of our hearts, hoping to be able to reach people and be able to reach the people that need this, the people that really want to kind of see the experiences of other people and really feel a part of this podcast as well. So it's a pleasure to be here with you, Isaac. I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me.
Daniel, I was thinking about how we would kind of structure this podcast and how we want to bring something of an experience, right? And so if you look at the production right now that we have, we want to make sure that it's something of quality, something that when people hop onto our podcast, as soon as they hear a certain sound or as soon as they hear our voices, they know we're going to bring something knowledgeable, right? And I know that we planned to have questions for each other. Now I completely scratched that on my end because I was like, I want to make this super organic. I don't want to have to plan 3 questions a week beforehand and then, have it kind of strategized and planned out. So I don't have 3 questions for you. And I know you probably have questions for me. And I know I didn't tell you not to plan questions. I know you were planning questions. But like I said, I want this to be very raw. I want this to be a very raw podcast where we can just say what we have to say on the spot on how we feel about it without even having to think about it beforehand. And so, Daniel, I've never told you this before, but I think something that I wanted to share with you is that I'm super grateful for when I first started out in doing camera work, photo work, things like that. I'm super grateful on you being able to teach me that. And so I've shared it with a lot of people. And I've always told people I was in this organization and I had a friend of mine that taught me how to pick up a camera. And that friend was you. And I remember we were I think it was in San Marcos, and you needed a bunch of help. You were like running like a headless chicken, and you were like, I need help with taking pictures, stuff like that. And I remember you came up to me, you're like, hey, do you know how to take pictures, stuff like that? And I was like, no, not really. I don't even know how to turn on a damn camera. But you gave it to me and you put trust in me. And from that moment, I really appreciate it, because that moment I fell in love and I found my passion and I found my talent. And now we're here, we're doing this podcast after, I think it was like 7 years ago, about 8 years ago or somewhat. When I was like 17, I'm 22 now. And so you gave me that opportunity. And so one, I want to say I'm very, very grateful for that and what you've done for me. And so I wanted to share that and get started with that on the appreciation of you doing this for me and you helping me out with this and things like that.
Thanks. I think that I remember that event clearly because I was a headless chicken. I remember you were just there. You're like, whatever you need help and just let me know. And I was like, hey, I need someone to take pictures. And you're like, I don't know how to do it, but I was like, just click the button and we'll figure it out later. I think that that was a crucial moment in, I think, both of our lives, where I guess that spark got lit in you, and I'm very thankful to be able to be, one of the people that helped guide you in anything that you might need or anything that you ever needed. Um, I really do appreciate you. It's been amazing to see you grow and everything. I think we talked about this a while back that I see you as an inspiration. You were very young and you wanted to fly, like a jet plane. And many kids at that age are more concerned about, what shoes am I gonna buy? What's the new polo that's coming out? And you were like, what lenses are coming out? What software can I
Yeah.
use to edit this picture? I have this very good memory of we were about to do an event and you were editing and you're showing me this picture, and it was like this Disney production picture where it was a lion in the forest and the forest was blue, and I was like, man, dude, that's so creative. It was such a cool picture, and I remember I was like, man, this kid's unstoppable. I mean, I think you were 17, about to be 18 at that point. It's like 2017 ish, and you were you're already planning, way down the road, and it's just been amazing and it's been really awesome. It's been a privilege to be able to stand by your side with these ideas that you get. They're just not regular kid ideas. And I said this a while back to you too. And I said, you've accomplished things that grown men, that have their lives, fully planned out and everything can't even accomplish. And it's amazing to see you do all these things. Um, and you're right. You caught me off guard because I had some questions planned out for you, but I agree. I think that this should be something very raw, hard hitting, and I'm, I'm very thankful that, for everything. I'm very thankful for, that, I was able to help you with that. And I'm very thankful that you opened your doors to be able to allow me to come in this podcast and to be here with you. Thank you so much, man.
No, no, no. Thank you. And the reason why I think this should be our first episode is because I think that it's like, you do things and you always wonder, why are you doing it? Why did you start it? Like, how did you start it? Right. And so, like I said, it all circles back to you handing me that camera. And so I want you to be my first guest. And I didn't tell you this either. I didn't tell you to be my first guest. I just always told you, I'm like, Daniel, let's just record and see where we go with this. But I want to hear your story. I want to hear your story because I think you also have a very interesting story. Everybody has an interesting story. So I want to go back a little bit to I know we're just going to introduce the podcast, but this is going to turn into an episode, okay? I want to go back to you on when you first picked up a camera. And I want to talk about this because I know that when there's people that are going to hear this episode, one, they get confidence, they get things that, they might hear from this first podcast and they might say, hey, if they can do it or they've been support to each other, why can't I, right? And I've always told my partner this, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you, but it's like if anybody's doing anything, it's like, why can't you? And so I want to jump back to that. When was the first time you picked up a camera? And like, tell me your story. That's what I want to hear.
So I have a very interesting, I guess, beginning. When I was about 12, 13 years old, sorry, I was probably 11 and 12. I spent some time in Colombia, and as you know, my uncle and my brother and my aunt, all of them live in this, media world. They work for news stations, and they were always in that. And I remember I was at my uncle's house, and he had his little son, my cousin. He was very little, and I thought I was gonna go out and hang out with my uncle and my aunt and my cousin. And my uncle pulls out a computer and he's like, "I must start showing you tutorials in the Final Cut Pro and all the stuff that he does." And he would have me there all night just watching these videos. And at first I was like, it's just kind of cool, like, but I was also, I think, 11, 12, so I was very young, and I was into it at the beginning. And then after day 4 or 5 is of constantly spending all night watching videos and then having like tests. And I was like, man, I really don't want to do this, bro. I just want to like go to sleep. Like I just want to sleep. Like I don't want to watch this. So the interesting thing is that they were kind of my gateway to all of this. Um, and at the beginning, I guess you could say I didn't really have a good relationship with, photography, videography, editing, all of that. I really didn't like it because I felt at one point in life it was something that it was forced upon me, not something that I was able to kind of embrace it. Uh, and like I had said previously, when you're little, you're not thinking about I'm gonna be a professional cameraman. Or you're like, what's the new PS2 game? What Xbox just came out? I want that. And so I guess when I was younger, that was kind of the back and forth that I had. I was a musician. My uncle and my aunt, or the other side of my family, wanted me to be a technician. And my mom wanted me to be a chef. It was just everywhere. And so I was kind of just in the middle, like I don't really know what to do. So that was kind of the first, point. It wasn't until 2015, the end of 2015, beginning of 2016, that an opportunity came with the organization that we were volunteering with. There was a need for technicians in the United States for the nonprofit. And a great friend of ours, he was like, I think you should go. And I was like, dude, I really have a love-hate relationship with this. But I see the need and I'm always wanting to help. And I said, I'm down, I'll go and give him 100%. And, that's where I kind of got the second part of my course. My first part was when I was 11. The other part was when I was 18, 19, on photography, videography. And I kind of got an appreciation from it. I was older, so I understood things a little bit better. And it was fun to kind of see people in their each creative ways. Everyone has a creative side. You just kind of have to find it. And it was great to see somebody that, for example, yourself, also Chris at that event, y'all didn't know what y'all were getting yourselves into. And y'all were like, we're here to help. And, we took pictures, and then came the fun part, which is, editing and all that stuff. And it was just amazing to see, how everybody sees something differently, right? Everybody has a camera, but everybody sees a different point of view. Everyone sees something differently. Everyone sees something creative that isn't the same for anybody. Not everybody can get a camera. Everybody can be in the same spot, and then everyone's going to have a different picture because everybody sees things differently, like you said.
What, man, I want to jump back a little bit because one thing that I really, really appreciate is not only that you picked up the camera, but the stories that we built along that way from when we started to like now. I mean, I remember you came to my house and this is like super funny. I remember you drove from Austin all the way over here to El Paso. And like without even us knowing, I think you went and got me and my brother like at 4 a.m. and you like snatched us out of bed and you took us back to Austin with you. And then my parents had no clue we were gone until like a day later. And we're like, what? Like, but you did that. And the reason I mentioned this story is because I don't know if anybody's ever told you or given you this appreciation of like you've had a lot of struggles, like a lot of sacrifices that I've seen, where you've motivated a lot of us. You motivated a lot of the people that were involved in this, and you did whatever it takes, and you did whatever it. I mean, financially, I mean, the hard road trips, everything like that. Like nobody ever, that doesn't go underappreciated. How did that make you feel? How did that? Tell us a little bit about that story, that impact that had for you, and a little bit about those experiences. And I know it was super tough, and that's something that I want you to share as far as like the sacrifice that you had to make, because you've moved a lot of people, you've inspired a lot of people. A lot of the times, a lot of people didn't want to go to some of these events like that, but you went to their city and you snatched them and you grabbed them and you spent this money and you spent the long nights. Like, what was that about you that got you to do that?
I do remember that. I remember I was super scared because I was like, I don't really know your parents like well. But I asked you and I said, you ready to come? And I think you were like, my bags are packed. Let's go at 4 a.m. And, yeah, there was a lot of like sacrifices. I never really looked at any of that. I knew that there was kids out there, there was people out there that really needed some motivation, something to keep them, you know, something to keep them going, something that they wanted to do, something that they enjoyed. And that's that was my biggest reward, was just, seeing you guys grow, seeing um the the amazing things we got to do together, the events that we accomplished, the videos that we made, the photos that we took, just seeing all that, which is super hard work. It's always a team effort. Was just the biggest reward that I could have ever gotten. I was blessed to knowing all of y'all. The group was a lot bigger then, and then now, even, though we don't continue to do those events and stuff, but, we're still in communication, things come up. It's like, oh, hey, I'm in town, and we get together, for different occasions. It's there was times where I remember, um, I would look at my bank account and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I just got to do it. I just got to go for it. And I'd scrap up whatever money I had and figured it out, and just kind of rolled with the punches at that time. Um, definitely, definitely a lot of punches rolled with. It wasn't just it wasn't just like it's like I had a magical card that I could just go out and swipe and unlimitedly, and everything got taken care of. It was a lot of help from the team, a lot of help sometimes from the parents, a lot of help from the people that were organizing the events. It's a big team effort that at the end of the day was so rewarding to see our video on TV, or so rewarding to see, the pictures on the website. Um, it was just those are great memories. I Those are in the back of the head. Those are way out there. Those are hours and hours and hours of driving. But those were good times. Those were really good times.
I want you to share a story where you felt like you didn't want to do it. Like you were just like is this even worth it? Is this something that like I really want to keep doing, and you kept doing it, and I was there for it, and so like and I've seen it. So it's like, what really motivated you to keep doing? What is one of those things that you can share that like was a really, really tough moment for you, that like you were just like you said right now, like I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but you're gonna figure it out. And what was one of those stories like?
I think uh, I think you have this very great memory, because I do. And that was 2020. It was after the pandemic. I came up with the craziest idea I could come up with, which was a convention for the youth, international convention, to where I would have three continents simultaneously connected for 4 days straight. Um,
That
Live.
was crazy. I remember that. That was ridiculously crazy.
So that was, I think, one of the crazier things that I have tried to tackle. There was definitely times that I would sit down. It was 2, 3 in the morning. I was having meetings with, people in Europe, people around the world. It was really an all around, everyday, just an everyday, all day type communication thing. Speak different time zones, different languages sometimes. And there was times where I would just see no progress, and I would just sit there, or I'd talk to my wife, and I'm like, I don't know, man, this doesn't seem like it might be going the right way. You know, Even just organizing it here with the locals, it was such a big hurdle, such a huge obstacle. Definitely had those moments where I really thought about it at night, while I was at work. I was like, do I really want to try to do this? And in the back of my head was always just thinking about all the benefits that the youth could get, the benefits that everybody that was participating, that wanted to participate, all of the motivation that they brought and helped me going even when I didn't want to keep going. Even when the event started. And I don't know if you remember, right? But we had a 80 youth in three bedrooms at one house. And just to take a shower, it was like a 3 hour wait. It would practically be showers all night long. The bathroom sometimes would clog. It was just such memories. And when the final day came, we were all there. We got to see, you know, all the hard work that we put into it. You know, just we got to see everything that we had put into it. As a reward, we got to have three continents together. We had, I think, about 10 to 20,000 views every day, constantly live. We had our two Zoom calls completely full every day. It was just such a great blessing. And that was probably one of the biggest obstacles, one of the biggest mental challenges that I've had event wise with um with everybody. That's where I guess the new group got created. Some of the oldies, kind of, got older and stuff, and then I guess the new generation stepped up, and they stepped up big time. And I think without the new generation, we wouldn't have been able to accomplish that. And those were sleepless nights for sure.
I don't know if you realize, like, do you know that? And I realize this. I don't know if you realize it, that all that happened and all these people got together and all these things happened because of you. Do you realize that? Like, all this stuff did happen because of you, whether you realize it or not. Like, it did.
So I I don't like to think of it like that. It was a group effort. I know that a lot of people have said that, and you know I can try to see it right, but I think that obviously without somebody having these crazy ideas, nothing would flourish, nothing would come to fruition. But without a team, um, one of a very wise person once said, alone you'll get there faster, but together you get there farther. So I think that, yes, myself had the crazy idea, but if I didn't have a crazy team to back me up and join that crazy idea, none of us would have been there.
And I see it the same way. I'm just like, that now that I look back at it, I'm like, damn, we did wait 3 hours to take a shower. We 30 people in one home, sleepless night. We literally took like 30-minute naps of like for a 18-hour day, like 20, 48 hour. I remember one day I think it was that event. Like we didn't sleep at all for 48 hours. And it was like, we were lucky to take a nap. We were lucky, like that was like a blessing if we were able to take a 5-minute nap. Like it was ridiculously crazy. I remember I was switching one time and I was like those dazing away. And then I think I needed a switch and somebody else switched and I just got up and pressed the button. And then I ended up switching. It's like the wrong one. I was like, oh crap. And then I switched it to the right one. But like where I'm going with this is that I want you to realize that because you have always told me the things that I've done and the things that I've accomplished and that. And to me, I say this with a lot of heart. I don't think I would have done any of that if it wasn't for you handing me that camera that day. And so I want you to realize that all these things happen because of you.
And it's I thank God every day for all of these beautiful things that I was able to accomplish, all these beautiful people that I was able to meet. And there is times where um I'm one to say give credit where credit's due. So I believe that, you know, first and foremost, God is the one that helped me, helped all of us in these times, and to get all of this accomplished. And um everything that I do, everything that I try to do, everything that that gets done is really, putting God first, and having his blessing and having him as a guidance for all of this stuff uh, through hard times. And I really do think that the hard times are the best times, are the most, not necessarily the best times, but are the real times, the real times where God really checks you out. He's like, you're happy whenever your bank account's full. You're happy when your business is prospering. You're happy. You're thanking me then, but can you thank me whenever you have no money? Can you thank me whenever you're not sure what you're going to be able to make your payments? Are you going to thank me, and look up to me whenever your life is literally on a down spiral? And those are the times where I feel the most thankful. I look to God all the time, but I feel that I thank him more whenever it's those hard times when, like you said, the sacrifices that I make. Um, I always tell my wife, I said, I don't spend money, I invest money, right? So all the times that I went out to El Paso, all the times that, I went out to Oklahoma, I've gone out to many, parts of the United States, and um, it's an investment. It's an investment on all of you guys. It's an investment on myself too, because you guys have helped me be the person I am right now as well. Um, I literally feel like an old man because I had 80 kids in one house, and I was like, hey, did you shower? Hey, you need to put on some deodorant, bro. I can smell. Hey, did you eat? Hey, and so um, I think it's so funny because people look at me and they're like, how old are you? And I'm like, I'm 26. And they're like, really? Bro, you look like 30. And I'm like, oh, I feel 80, bro. Don't worry. I feel 80. Um, but back to the, what you were saying. Um, I'm thankful that God has been able to bless me and help me be where I'm at today. And through him, I'm able to help and bless anybody that's in my way and it's in my path. And one of those people was yourself, and I think we know a bunch of those people that have been able to get blessed by him through myself.
And what do you, before I get to like the things that I want to kind of close out this intro episode with, I want you to talk about, what do you hope to see with this podcast? Who do you hope to learn from? I want people to appreciate you, and that's why I wanted you to be like the first guest on here without knowing that you're going to be the first guest, because I want people to know who's going to be behind the scenes, the people switching this, and this production itself, the production that everybody's seeing right now, and through the audio, through the experience that they get through the audio, is that they know who the person is behind it. And to me, you were a mentor. You were somebody who, like, man, I didn't want to pick up cameras some days, but you got me to pick up cameras. You took me to trips to Mexico when I didn't want to. And, it was an experience, and I can't, I'm not going to stress this enough, and I'm going to keep repeating it. I would not be somebody as confident, somebody as talented, somebody as creative. And I know that you had things that you wanted to ask me, but I wouldn't be that without things that you've taught me. And so I want to put that appreciation of like the person that's going to be behind this podcast. But what do you hope to see out of this? What do you hope that people get to hear out of this, and the people tuning in?
Oh man, I pride myself in being a very unemotional person. um, and I mean, there's just so much memories.
I think I've only seen you cry once. And I think I saw you cry once at that event, when you pulled off that event, and I was like, wow, because that was a big event. Yeah.
It was a lot of mixed feelings. It was a lot of anger, happiness, sadness. Bank account, you know, you look at your bank account, you're like, ah, that's it. But um, it's you know, I thank you for thinking that I am somebody worthy of, you know, being you know, the first podcast, and you know, worthy of being with this. Um, thanks. You know, that really does mean a lot to me. Um, I I started out really and truly with a phone. I started out with the T Rebel T3, which was at that time when I had it, the T6 was already out. So that's where I started. Actually, that's the camera I also handed to you. I handed you that. I had that camera, and then I had a monster of a lens, which was a 100-400 Canon lens, 1.8 to 5.7 aperture. And it was funny because people be like, "Hey man, that's a $1,200 lens, and that's a $200 camera." And I said, "And that is one hell of a kid behind it, so don't worry about it." um, I always have said it, and I will always say it. It's not, you know, the equipment or what you're using; it's the person using it. Um, you talk about when we went to Mexico, I would drag you out to, you know, Juarez and other parts of Mexico, and we would show up, and you were like 17, and I was like 18, 19, and you know, Chris was the same, like 18. It's a bunch of little kids, and then it was these big older guys that have been working in this for 20, 30 years, and you know, we'd show up, and I told you this, guys, a while back when we were, you know, doing events and stuff, and I told it, and I will say it, and I stand by it. I would rather have any one of you guys over these professionals, or you know, anybody out there. I mean, I put you guys up against anybody. I really would, because yes, they might have the knowledge. Yes, they might have the time, the experience, everything. But there's one thing they don't have that you guys do have, and it's that heart. You guys have the heart that um, no one else sees. The heart, like you said, you know, 5 minute naps for 18-hour days. You know, no naps for 20-hour days. Hey, what's for lunch? Hey, you missed lunch, bro. Lunch was 2 hours ago. All right, well, I'll be at dinner time then. And you know, those people, those types of things, you don't see them in anybody. You have to be really dedicated. You have to really be doing it from the bottom of your heart to go days without eating, to go days without sleeping, to wait 2 hours, 3 hours to take a shower, just to even sleep in a room with 10, 15, 20 people in the room on inflatable beds. Because, yeah, we bought like 12 inflatable beds, and it was, instead of floor, it was just inflatable beds, and everyone would have to bounce on each bed to get to the next. That's only gonna, you know, those people that are there, those people that do that are only gonna do it if they have the heart and the desire to really do it. You know, these big shots, these, you know, people that have experience and everything, they they're where they're at because they have the experience, they have the knowledge. But when push comes to shove, I mean, you guys make them, you know, you guys level out pretty much above them, in my opinion. Um, it's just so much memories. um, you're hitting down memory lane.
And nah, and I'm thinking about a lot of these events too. And as you're talking, I'm thinking about like all those moments, and I'm like, wow, we actually did that without any experience, without any knowledge of anything, but somehow we made it happen, which was crazy. Like now that I think about it, and it's weird. It's weird now that I think about it, because now that I do stuff, like when I work with certain people, I'm like, it's so weird because I thankful to the stuff that we've done already. Like I know how to do productions, I know how to do some switching stuff, I know how to set up cameras to do live streams, stuff like that. And it's like when you do it with people who have never like done it before, but they think their experience is like, it's crazy how you're able to just teach them how to do that, or you're the one doing it, and it's like having that story of like how you learned it is like super crazy. people go to school for the stuff that we used to do. People go get degrees, stuff like that. And then, we just did it out of nowhere and we figured it out. And like now we know how to do it at the same level without having to go and, take that education route and stuff. So to me, I think about that a lot. I'm like, wow, the things that we've learned, the things that we've been able to do. And I see this really as like, as you were talking, I see that as very as like family. Like it was a family, and it was like there was nights where like you had to be comfortable with somebody in order to survive that, as far as like, sharing beds with somebody, or, like, just waking up and not being able to change or shower and just going straight to like the events and stuff, because you just didn't have time. And it's like things that you would only be able to share if it was like your brother and sister. But that's what this felt like. It was like just a family of people. And so you hit, yeah, like you said, it was memory lane. Before we close out this episode, Daniel, I do want to start this closing tradition. I'm going to copy it from that podcast that we love, right? But I want you to start it. And I want you to start it with a question that you would want to leave for our very second guest. That's going to be somebody big that I have in mind. Like, what would that one thing that you would like to ask be?
I think one of the questions that a lot of people ask me, my wife asked me this too, and it's if you could go back and change anything, would you? That's a question that I get asked a lot, from people that know me, from people that know where I came from, all that experience and everything. And they're like, I'm blessed to be where I'm at right now. I'm blessed to have known everybody. I'm blessed to go through those struggles that I went through. And a lot of people ask me, hey, would you go back and change something? And I think that's a question that I'd like to leave for the next guest. That
What would you change?
I wouldn't change anything.
Nothing. I love that. I love that, because I think everything was wonderful with chaos, but it was so wonderful.
I enjoyed every single moment of my life since I was born till I am right now. Every single struggle, every single glory day, every single thing. It's just nothing I would change. Changing something would create something different out of me, and I would not like to be anywhere different than where I'm at. I say this with confidence, right? I might not be the richest, I might not be the most handsome person, out there, but I am blessed by God, and I am blessed to know everybody that I do and to have everybody in my life that I do. And if I wouldn't risk any of that for, changing anything materialistic.
No, likewise. Daniel, thank you for being the first unknowingly guest, because you had no idea that, this was going to happen. But, and everybody who's listening, I think that I really, really want this, and I think we both want this, and I think my partner really wants this to happen, is to be able to be that outlet where people can listen to anything that they want to pursue. And I know I talk a lot about like wanting to interview business people or CEOs or things like that, right? But it's more of like interviewing somebody with the story, because relatability is so key when you're doing something, and you find motivation through it, you find inspiration. And so to anybody who reached the end of this episode and you're listening, and through our micro content and social media platforms, I hope that, this start of this podcast is going to be a fun one. I hope it's going to be something that you grab something and you're like, that's going to be that click for you. And I hope something that Daniel shared is going to be that click for you. That's going to be motivating you to do something, or saying like, hey, I can do it. And, I will do it, because, there is people out here that support you. We support you. We're here for you. And I say this in my other podcast a lot. It's like a lot of people, if they had one person to be that support for them or somebody to push them, man, they could have been the next Picasso. They could have been something, right? But because they didn't have that, or somebody told them, no, you suck, you're not going to be able to do it, it's like they gave up on it. They pursued something else. And so, Daniel, you were that person for me. You made all this happen for me. So I want to tell you that. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to share before we end this.
No, thank you guys for, staying to the end of this podcast. We really appreciate that. We hope that further down the road, we are of help and we are that support. I'm going to add just a little bit to what you said. Anybody that is a part of this is part of the family, right? I like to consider us the Element 7 family. Anybody that's listening, anybody that's watching, we're there for you. If you guys want to, leave some comments, leave some, like, share this to somebody that might be, needing something like this. Thank you for um, having me, Isaac. I'm excited to be a part of this. I'm excited to, just do whatever I can to do my part to make this podcast be the next big thing. I appreciate you in having me as a first guest. Definitely blindsided me there. I was not expecting that. But like I said at the beginning, I love to roll with the punches and definitely got a big one today. But thank you so much. And anybody that is out there, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope there was something that you can take out of this, that you can get out of this to help you, and just keep going. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Keep going. When you see things, when things are bad or when things are, not going the way you want them to, they are going the way you want them to. You're just not seeing it through the right eyes. So keep going. Anything you really think about, you can do it. And I've seen it firsthand with all of the people I've seen, all the people that have been in my life. I see them, one day they're working in fast food, and the next day they're business owners, and they're making a lot of money and just growing and growing and growing. But the biggest thing is, you have to just keep going. You can't let anybody bring you down. You can't let anybody tell you can't, because you can. You really can. Isaac is a huge, huge, huge example of you can do anything you really set your mind to. Age doesn't matter. Money doesn't matter. Talent doesn't matter, because there's something that you have, and that's motivation, and that's will, and that's drive and heart. And if you have that, you can outdo anybody that has whatever talent they have, whatever skill they have. You can go farther than because heart is really, and motivation is really what drives you and makes you go where you are. And I love listening to podcasts, and one of my favorite guys to hear is Mark Cuban. And if no one's ever heard Mark Cuban's story, I recommend you go listen to it. That guy is prime example of motivation, and will take you further than anything else. And thanks, Isaac, for everything. I'm glad to be able to share this mic with you, and thank you so much.